Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Let the filibustering begin.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to Filibuster here on the Nerd Party Network, our 11th day of podcast interviews and coverage from the 2018 Edinburgh International Film Festival continues. Only another 3 days to go, and still many exciting things to bring you. Up first today is our interview with actress Sophie Kennedy Clark and writer-director Jamie Jones, who joins me to discuss Obey, one of my highlights of the Edinburgh Film Festival. Obey is about Leon, a 19-year-old boy with an alcoholic mother who's grown up in and out of care. Finally free from adult supervision, Leon begins to rail against the injustices of his reality as his dream becomes more and more unattainable and distant. Leon's existence is suffocating and all too real. When he meets Twiggy, a beautiful blonde girl living in a local squat, something stirs inside of him as she introduces him to her world and the weight of his past lifts. I hope you'll enjoy our interview and be sure to check out the fantastic Obey when it comes out in cinemas, and enjoy the interview. Thank you so much for talking with me today, and congratulations on your UK premiere of this movie. How do you kind of feel here tonight?
Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic to be selected, and it's an amazing city, and yeah, I think it's a very nice. I've been here once before, so it feels like an honour really to be selected for the Best of British thing. You know?
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely one of the best films I've seen of the festival, and we were debating it outside there, we were debating it at home. Like, the legacy of the London riot seems to have been, for us personally, is something that's kind of forgotten about. It was something that happened, and there doesn't seem to be a legacy that much people can remember. And I was just watching the movie, and it's things like where you pick up on the news, and in the background you think, wow, what is the legacy of that? And to see someone actually make a film about it, it's like, why is this taking so long? And what was the origin of making a movie about kind of, an event taking place during these riots for you?
Well, I didn't choose from the outset to make it about the riots. I was just interested in the Occupy movement, the financial meltdown, and then the austerity that came after, and the Occupy movement. I was looking at those guys, looking at stories and that, and it just felt a little bit too sort of clean, because it's too easy, because the Occupy guys, everyone kind of supports them. They're the good guys. There didn't seem like there was enough conflict in there. And to create points of drama, points of tension, and I kept going kind of referencing the riots as I was kind of trying to develop the story, and then eventually, I think I was talking with the producer Ross, and he was just like, well, why don't you just make it about the riots then? Why don't you just set it down? I was like, it's a fucking good idea. And then once I made that kind of decision, then everything just kind of fell into place really, and all the themes that I wanted to discuss, and everything was just there, because obviously it's such a kind of hot topic, and a kind of split kind of British culture down the middle. Lots of people disagreed on the causes and the justifications, and because there were so many elements to it, and obviously when it became about a lot of looting, then a lot of sympathy was lost with a lot of people, but I just kind of wanted to get underneath all of that. And kind of explore the kind of social reasons of why a riot would happen. Obviously there's a trigger, but why does a whole class of people want to go out and burn the country down?
So that's kind of highlighted the character of Leon. How did you go around creating such this brilliant character, and obviously finding the actor as well, Marcus Rutherford, someone I hadn't heard of before, and it's like you watch that and you come away thinking that guy's going to have such a huge career?
Well, yeah, I mean, for sure, he's amazing, isn't he? And the character, for me, I know it sounds strange to say, but I put a lot of myself into him, and just a lot of my own frustrations, growing up, and my frustrations of trying to get a film off the ground, and feeling like, coming from a kind of working class background myself, and not having kind of very good formal education, and struggling with a lot of those things that Leon struggles with. Obviously, I had fantastic parents, and that was a great help for me, and probably helped me in a way that Leon doesn't have that. But Marcus, he's just a sort of he's an undiscovered gem really, isn't he? And I think he's going to go go places now for
Yeah.
sure.
There's a lot of kind of undiscovered gems in terms of actors in this movie, and I can't remember the name of the actress off the top of my head that plays his mother. She was
Miller.
unbelievable
Yeah.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And,
Man, she packs a punch in the film.
oh,
Yeah, he does.
Because I didn't really get to see a lot of her work.
Yeah.
And that was what was so amazing. Like seeing it is, so many of the other
Yeah.
actors, like their performances are incredible.
absolutely, like the line
Yeah.
that she says to you when it's like,
This-
"We're not from the same place," and
Yeah,
it's one of those ones
yeah.
I was like. And you could just, I was feeling going, oh God, that's so awkward, and it's stuff like that. It was like,
Yeah.
how did you find all these actors, and then obviously for you, Sophie, how did you then become involved in this movie?
I auditioned for it. I was sent the script, and as you do, you have to go in and audition for things. But it was one of those scripts that I read whereby when you read something often, because you know who you're up against, there's always like, with casting, there's like a type of girl that usually you see in the casting rooms.
Yeah.
And it's always like, oh, well, I guess I could do it, but she could probably do it as well. Like, that's kind of how
Sure.
it plays out in my head. And I read this and I was like, nope, no one else is doing this. That's just, I ended up coming in for a callback and then auditioned with Marcus and another guy. Thanks for the
I
role.
think Sophie basically just said you have to give you the role.
Yeah.
She just said you're going to have problems in your life if you don't do this role.
Yeah.
So
I think the London riots were
yeah.
bad.
Exactly. She definitely charmed us all over. But, fantastic.
And how did you kind of go around casting a lot of many of these other kind of roles, whether the smaller roles like the group of guys?
Yeah, there was like
stuff?
different levels of casting. So there was like the kind of the principal five, which was Sophie, Marcus, Sam, Tania, and James, were cast kind of the more conventional way, with the casting directors and doing it all like that. But then we cast through a lot of the Leon's friends and the people in the background, a lot of the kind of the people that give it the texture and the heart of the film in many ways, that kind of very documentary vibe that we get. A lot of those guys are completely they've done like bits of theatre. They work in, there's like a charity that works in London working with disadvantaged kids and stuff like that, and they bring them in, do these like theatre workshops and stuff like that. So we kind of workshopped with a lot of these guys and developed the script with a lot of these guys and getting the language right and making sure that the themes were right. And we talked about class, we talked about racism, we talked about politics, and all of that stuff really, and got to the kind of heart of what we felt was the kind of social reasons of why that would happen, So we kind of developed with those guys and then cast loads of them, And actually a lot of the characters that were in there weren't even in there when we were doing that development process. And then I would then I just kept adding more characters into the script because I just kept finding these legends.
They're total gems.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And I mean that opening scene, when they're walking towards a camera and, it's just like completely improvised scene, and I'd had something written for that.
Yeah.
Which was along the lines of something along those nothing like what she said actually, but something along the lines of just kids just talking about crap and not important, and then I just said, look, I've written this. I said, can you think of something a bit more interesting or a bit more funny? And then we just kind of workshopped it and rehearsed it, and then I said, right, this is your stage. I'm not going to cut. It's your time to do some theatre, basically. This is like theatre, really, isn't it?
And that's such confident kind of directing and writing from you. Obviously, this is your first feature, and to go in with that level of confidence and trust, was that something that perhaps scares you a little bit, or is that just who you naturally are as a director?
I mean, I won't lie, I was a bit nervous about not having anything to cut to, So there was an element of just one shot, one take. There's a little bit of nerves with that, But I think once I'd set it up and and I'd worked with the guys for so long, I just felt confident in them really.
Yeah.
And I thought as long as it's not something that is really scripted, that I need not one of these really dramatic moments in the film, like when he sat with his mother in the kitchen and there's dialogue that needs to be on page and it needs to be right, But I knew that scene was kind of a very improv-y scene anyway. So I just thought, well, actually, as long as they're just going to freestyle it, it's going to feel natural and it's just a set-up scene anyway. So I was kind of confident in that, really.
Perfect. And for you, Sophie, what was this role for you? Twiggy is so full of contradictions. She's such an interesting character to play. How do you approach a character like that?
Well, I think the thing that I've found, whatever she's doing, I think she's very genuine in the way that she is, in that I do believe that she doesn't do anything out of malice. You know, I don't think it comes from a bad place. I think it comes from a very privileged sort of upbringing where she doesn't really have to ever pay for consequences when things get a bit rough. She just dips out. And I mean, when we spoke about Twiggy, it was just very much like, you know, kind of head in the clouds, always kind of looking for the party, just finding the next sort of hit almost. And it's Leon that asks for her number. Like, she doesn't go chasing after him. And I think he really piques her curiosity, because he's probably like no one she's ever met or mixes with, because, you know, even though her sort of kind of her friendship group and her boyfriend, you know, they're all sort of fighting the good fight, but that, you know, none of them have come from the same background as Leon. It's a far more bohemian existence that they seem to be having. And, you know, she likes him, and she sees something in him. So I mean, I always really liked Twiggy, and I think that was the thing. You know, I remember when we were speaking about the role, I think before I even got it, was that a lot of people had read it and they didn't like her. And I just think she just seems like the most fun. Like, she's like a friend that I'd like to have. You'd follow them anywhere. And anything even entirely probably boring, like walking through a field or even just like smoking a joint in a barge, you just follow her. She's kind of like the white rabbit of the story, you know. But she doesn't scare easy, and she go back to his place, and she does get to have a glimpse of, you know, his upbringing. But they're just they kind of meet coming from such different places. I think even like emotionally, you know, she's got a boyfriend as well, you know. But yeah, I think within playing Twiggy, it was just about kind of, there's like a casualness, and then also the fact that, like, you know, everything was like a problem, just having to get out of the city because everything, you know, nothing's that hard. Her car maybe doesn't work a bit, but that's like the worst part of her day. And he's just watched his mum get smacked around. You know what I mean? But she's a kind of amazing mirror of sorts to his situation.
But we developed the sort of aloofness of Twiggy, didn't we, during the filming of it as well, isn't it?
Totally.
Because that kind of helped, I think, create Leon's kind of fascination with her in a way. Like, she's a little bit aloof in that way, and like, he has to ask for your number, he has to kind of trick your number out of you in a way, doesn't he? You know, because you try and fob him off, and so there's a certain aloofness with her as well, you know, which I think is quite alluring. I think it's also more interesting than playing it, you know, fairy pixie dream girl quirky, which is often
so easy to be
I
done.
think you know, which people do a lot. And I think my first interpretation initially was probably immediately just because you're so used to it. Well, at least I get put off for, you know, that whole quirky thing quite a lot. And then it was a far more interesting way to play the role, and you can see why then he also, because she doesn't give him anything, she doesn't give him any actual signals, you know, really, apart from, you know, when they do end up, you know, spending the night together. But there hasn't really been much that she's given off to him before that point.
They just enjoy nice little jaunts together. It's all comfortable.
I mean, I was never quite sure if my roll-ups just constantly look like joints in the movie, and Twiggy's actually just stoned throughout the entire thing.
But it's the lifestyle as well, isn't it? That sucks him in, you know. It's the lifestyle, it's that thing, you know. That
it's getting out of the city and stuff as well. And I was curious as well, just finally, that it seems to be a trend that in these interviews we keep coming back to at the festivals. There's so much representation here. I mean, for you, Sophie, you're in this, and you're in Lucid as well, which is, you know, it's all come out, and spoke with him last week, that, you know, a blind director, and then with this, you know, it's the black working class in the festival. You know, we're seeing films by directors with disabilities. We're seeing, you know, females dominating many of the movies in terms of getting lead roles that are exciting and interesting. Something like Obey, we get, you know, a black lead character from a working class background. We're getting, it's more than just the usual kind of
I tell you,
films
one
we
of
expect.
the interesting things working on the film is a lot of the guys, Marcus included, you know, Torian, a lot of the guys I was working with are all like writers and want to be directors as well, you know, and so, you know, I guess you just hope that you know, a film like this can get out there, and they can all use that leverage, you know, to get their own story. And I keep saying to Marcus and a few of the other guys, you know, like, send me your scripts, you know, I'll help you with them. Maybe we can work together, collaborate on stuff, you know. So it's just a collaborative process, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Filmmaking.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I think all good films ultimately do the same thing, which is kind of show you something that you haven't really seen before, show you a part of the world, like a secret world in a sense, isn't it? That maybe you haven't kind of seen that, you know. I haven't seen Lucid, but you know, certainly with Obey, I think a lot of people wouldn't have seen that world, and maybe would judge a character like Leon, you know, through like news reporting and media, you know, obsession, whatever. Actually, spending some time with him, you see that he's actually quite a sensitive, kind of artistic kind of guy in a way, but he's just surrounded by the worst kind of shit ever, you know. Absolutely. So. Yeah,
I think also now it's a really exciting time, generally just because, you know, when you look at movies like Tangerine that was shot on an iPhone, people have a platform that they never had, and you don't need, you know, the big fancy equipment, because people now have the technology that they can do it on their laptop, whether it's, you know, CGI or whatever. And, you know, a lot of my friends who are making films, you know, I just produced my first short, but all of that, you know, it's so much easier to get things made, and I think all these, you know, minorities, as you're saying, are going to have more of a voice than they ever would have had before, because coming out of what cinema has been for a long time, and it, you know, really since kind of the golden age, it's been very male dominated, and it's all been that one white man's view of what something is. But, you know, luckily we're living in a time where, you know, equality is becoming more normalised.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for bringing this amazing movie, and I can't wait to see where it goes next.
I'm
And
glad you
I'll be
liked
definitely
it.
watching all of your careers so well. So
Great.
good luck and thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Nerd Party.